are looking at this Diddy case right now, and when things start falling apart, and they're saying, look at what would happen. You're talking about he's facing life. He has all these obstacles in front of him, and Cassie's not making it easier because we all know Cassie's up there on that stand, and she's being believable. Not only is she being believable, she's poised, and they're not able to dig into, deep into what happened in that relationship, even though, the prosecutors are saying like she was coerced into all of this, and she's being like real truthful and coming across as that as well. So the reason why I'm saying who Diddy needs to meet and why Diddy needs to meet this person, because this is going to be the most influential person when it's decided whether he's going to be guilty or innocent. And that guy is none other than Ed Martin Jr. Remember that name. You're going to start hearing a lot about him, especially right before the trial and if Diddy is convicted. And the reason why Ed Martin Jr., it will be so influential, and he'll be like somebody where he's going to go from a novice person that nobody knows about to everybody in pop culture, into the court system, knows how much power this guy's going to have. And how the reason why he has all this power is because he is actually the pardon attorney right now. This is who Trump appointed as the pardon attorney. So he has all this power, where we're talking about if it comes to who does he decide if he wants to pardon Diddy soon as like he's convicted or anything like that. Ed Martin Jr., he's in the ear of the president. It's his job to start looking at these cases and figure out who gets pardoned, who gets, different situations happen for them. So you got to think about it. Are they already looking at this case and saying, just in case Diddy does get convicted, are they starting to weigh their options? And you're looking at when you also think about who Kim Kardashian got, taken out of prison when she was in there for so long. The beauty of this now is there's so much different opportunities where Diddy and his team can start reaching out to these people early on, because if you reach out to them early on and start building that rapport with them, you're going to need them later on. Just Alice Johnson, the one who Kim Kardashian got out, look how many years she had to stay in there. You don't want, I'm sure Diddy and his team, he's paying huge money to these different lawyers and these investigators and these private eyes. So they're definitely making the right connections with specific people just in case. You got to have a backup plan. And I'm sure Diddy's backup plan, if I get convicted for this, if shit starts looking real bad, who are we reaching out to so I can get pardoned? We already know he has that relationship with the president. They've been friends. They've got all types of photos with them. Nobody's speaking out on it. And, I understand that. But just think about it. When it comes time that, shit hits the fan and he looks like he's going to get convicted, or he does get convicted, who gets him out of jail? It's not going to be none of his just friends. And even though he knows high profile people, once you're convicted, that's out the window. And then not only that, people might not want to associate with Diddy after this, after, everything that's been happening, because, for years, Diddy had a clean cut image now. Make no mistake. He was in the right circles with the different types of people. And then, you're good until you're no good to people. And Diddy's realizing right now, he doesn't have those powerful friends who can do anything when it comes to the justice system. And only person that can do something like that is Ed Martin Jr. And the reason why, because he's the pardon attorney, and this is who the Justice Department has just appointed probably 4 or 5 days ago. So he's in a position, regardless what happens to Diddy, he can just okay, so what he's convicted of, he can be convicted on all 3 charges, and he can pardon him on all 3 charges. And this is something where, we're going to start hearing, just because a person has money. And, this is one thing, like me working in the media business for a long time, I realized just because you have money doesn't mean you have the power as well. Right? And the only way you can have that influence is you have to be able to reach out to the right people. You have to know, like, just not just being rich, but not going out and, shaking hands and, going up on Capitol Hill and meeting the right people, donating to the right causes. And this is what happens and helps you out later on. You look at Jay-Z, you look at all those people, they're shaking the right hands, and they know when something happens, who they could call and just get right out of it. You look at George Clooney and all that stuff. If something ever happened with George Clooney's getting right out. George Clooney has donated to different campaigns. George Clooney has, been with different presidents in the sense of setting up fundraisers for them. And of course, Diddy has as well. So, but only problem with that, Diddy has been a Democrat for so long, and they're not in power right now. And the guy, Martin Jr., when I say he can pardon anybody right now, he is the pardon attorney. So all he has to do is he puts it in front of the president signs off of it, boom, Diddy's out of jail. So when you're going to start hearing so many, and this is going to start coming about once, probably 8 more weeks when it starts coming, as they're going to make a decision whether Diddy is guilty or not. They're going to have to start reaching out to people just in case, because one thing you don't want to wait till the last minute to try to decide, like, hey, let's start making these connections now that Diddy got sentenced to 30 years, and let's see who can get him out. You want to start doing this stuff early. And I know a lot of people think just because you're rich, like if you're rich, you can just make things happen. It doesn't work like that, honestly, especially once someone's convicted, and especially with the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons. They're the worst people to have to deal with, because nobody knows who's actually in charge of that. That's one of the industries that's the most trickery in our country. Like, there's not like one person who you can say is the CEO of the BOP. The Congress doesn't have anything to do with it. Senators, they have problems just reaching out to someone. So when it comes time to, if Diddy is convicted, and who can he reach out to? This is the guy. This is going to be his guy. This is going to be his guy, Ed Martin Jr. This is going to be the guy who reaches out, and I'm sure Diddy's attorneys are like, letting them know, figuring out what does it take, and will he have to spend? Would Diddy probably have to spend maybe 8 months in there before they finalize something? But make note, when it comes to figuring out, like, who do you start reaching out to? What favors need to be done? This is going to be his guy. This is going to be his guy in a sense that he has the ear of the president, of course, right? And the president doesn't want to have to go out there and say it. So you put somebody else in front. And with Ed Martin Jr., he's going to be the scapegoat in the sense of when this wants to be done. So you're going to see a lot of shuffling. You're going to start hearing some of these things. But I know that's Diddy's, like, last option. That's his get out of jail card. That's all the times he's donated money to different campaigns. This is the time where he's probably going to have to spend the bag afterwards, because there's a lot of ways where you don't have to pay to get out, but you can do also some other things as well. And we know how trickery politics is, and it's almost a pay-to-play type of game as well. Let's call it what it is. They'll tell us, nah, this person is on the up and up, but we know when you start hearing about certain people get put in positions where they have an option to get out of jail versus someone who's been in there 20 years for the same crime, and this person says, well, he's a law-abiding citizen. Now, of course, Diddy doesn't have a record, so this will help him more, and then he's going to have a lot of other things. But being this case, and it's damaged Diddy's reputation right now. So he's kind of toxic in a way where, like, somebody that's straight-laced doesn't want to be associated with him. But this guy, Ed Martin Jr., he could care less. It's whatever the president's going to tell him, but he's going to take the heat for it. And the good part is when, like, Diddy's lawyers and his team, his staff, everybody's reaching out to him now. They're figuring out what can happen. You better believe it's in the works. So although Diddy's case might get a little stronger, don't look for it where, like, he's not going to jail he's going to jail for lifetime or all these charges that they get. I can't see it. I just can't see it. I don't know too many people who's been influential and has money and power that's ever stayed long time in prison and hasn't gotten out because it's the good old boys club at the end of the day, and they figure out ways to get these people out. So just look in this next couple weeks. Just remember this guy's name. Remember, y'all heard this from me. This guy, Ed Martin Jr. He's the Justice Department's new pardon attorney for the President Trump. So you're going to start hearing his name pop up once the case starts rolling, and he has the option to let Diddy go if he does get found guilty. So this is going to be real important. Anyway, I'm getting ready to figure out some more stuff, and I'll check back in a little bit later. Follow me and subscribe, and I'm definitely going to start locking in on this on this case and other situations as well. So I'll hit y'all up a little bit later.